We are 22S Radio, the next wave of K-Beach. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 88.1 FM. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Rob Flores, and today it is another edition of the Golden Spotlight. At this time, I'd like my guest to please introduce herself.
Hello, Rob. My name is Shelise Hufstetler, and I am an actress, stylist, and influencer in Los Angeles.
Awesome. So, the first thing I like to do is I like to start off from the beginning. What was life growing up? Are you an only child, or were you have siblings?
I do have siblings. So, I grew up in a very, very small town in Utah. People often ask me what city, and I say you haven't heard of it. It's way up north by Idaho, lots of cows and cornfields, and not much of anything else. So I grew up with 2 brothers in the house, and then 1 half-sister who was in Chicago, so we saw her every now and then, but I'm the baby, and so I definitely got picked on.
Oh, wow. So does that make you like planet stuff, or like...
Did we have a farm?
Yeah.
We didn't have a farm, but a lot of my friends did. So we lived up on the mountain, and my lifestyle was more four-wheeling and camping and fishing versus farming. And occasionally I would go and ride my friends' horses because that was my favorite.
Cool. What was public school like?
What was public school? It's funny because I don't think I even knew what private school was until I was like 15. They just don't exist where I'm from. So it's all that we knew. It was fun and very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I actually spent my senior year of high school in Portland, which was a huge change for me.
Cool. Tell us, what was elementary and middle school like?
What was elementary, middle school like? I don't know. I feel like it was a pretty normal school, normal childhood. We'd take field trips up to the mountains. We had a lot of caves, so we went and saw the cool crystals in the caves. Very outdoorsy lifestyle. Definitely not city life. Very, very country and relaxed and very athletic, I guess you could say. We did a lot of wakeboarding and hiking and swimming, all of the outdoorsy things.
So, in public school, did you get bullied, though, or did you have to deal with anything like that?
I mean, yeah, I think everyone deals with that at some level. I don't want to say that I was bullied. I mean, everyone has their people that, little tiffs and stuff, like every high school. But for the most part, I was friends with every group of people. I didn't really have my own clique. I was kind of the wanderer between cliques. So, yeah, I was on the dance team, and in Portland I was on the dance and the cheer team. So that was kind of my group of people.
So, you know how in the high school and stuff you have, like, I guess stereotypical or in like the movies, you have like the gothic people on one side, the rockers, the band geeks and all that. Did you have anything like that going on?
Of course, we had all of that, and even more than what is usually shown in movies, we had the cowboys, who were a lot of fun. And actually now a lot of them are like world champion rodeo riding bulls and stuff. It's really cool.
Cool. So when did well, obviously the question I also asked my guest is, senior year is said to be the most stressful in high school. You got a lot going on. There's all these events that people want to participate in, like prom and all that. What was that like for you?
Just what was that like?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I would argue that junior year is the most stressful because you're trying to get the college credits, trying to figure out your life, what you're going to do after school. Once you hit senior year, it's kind of like a coast. At least for me, we always tried to get all of our hardest classes done as a junior so that as a senior you can just play. And my senior year, like I said, was spent in Portland, Oregon. So it was kind of weird transferring schools because they didn't really know what credits I needed and what I could actually accomplish based on their requirements. And so I just did like a lot of easy classes, and it was really chill.
So what was it like though, transferring to like a different city and stuff like that? You know, the changes going on and stuff.
It was definitely a challenge and a culture shock, but a good one. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things, different people, different way of life. My school in Utah, it's hard to explain. I can only describe it as preppy. Like everyone matched and you wore name brand clothes, and it was very typical high school. And then when I went to Portland, I remember the first day of school I got all dressed up because that was a huge deal in Utah. And I got to school in Portland, and the most popular girl in school had her hair like in a messy bun and a sweatshirt and a tie-dye thing that she made, and I was like, what? it was totally different, but I loved it. Everyone was just so relaxed and chill, and especially with the rainy weather, no one even bothered doing their hair because it was going to get wet and sloppy anyway. So it was definitely different. It was an adventure, meeting new people. Being the new girl was kind of fun. Just everything was different. Even the style of dancing on the drill teams was totally different. In Utah, it's very military. You are in rows, and you look and you make the same face at the same time, and it's really intense dancing. And then in Utah, it's very flowy and organic and feeling and just totally different.
Another thing I hear, you know, obviously is certain like states, like it's so much different than like California. Like I hear that, you know, there could be things like, oh, like a grocery store is like a bunch of miles away. What's it like?
Yeah, we lived up in the hills, so it took a good 15 to 20 minutes to get to a grocery store. There were only 2 in town, so if you forgot the milk, that was a full half-hour trip. And I know here in Los Angeles, it's like, well, yeah, it might take 15 minutes to get to Trader Joe's, but you're going like a mile and a half. And where I'm from, we lived like 10 miles from town. So, yeah, we had like 3 stoplights, 2 grocery stores, maybe 1 restaurant. The movie theater was the next town over, which was 30 minutes to get to. I can't say I ever would want to live in a small town again, but I feel like it was a great place to grow up.
So obviously people reach the moment in life at the end of high school. What is next? Where do I want to go next? What school? What major? What happened?
For me, I actually knew my junior year because I took this fashion design class and realized I loved it way more than anybody else, at least as far as college goes. I knew that I wanted to be an actor since I was teeny tiny, begging my mom to put me on Disney Channel. That wasn't in the cards for me living where I did. But as far as continued education goes, I knew that I wanted to do fashion design. I loved sketching and designing, and I was making clothes in 3rd grade, or at least attempting to. So those are my 2 major passions, and I'm really excited and happy to say that I'm doing both of those things equally. I do acting 50% of the time, styling 50% of the time, and it's really great. I'm really blessed to be doing what I set out to do.
Awesome. Tell us about the importance of mentors, and during K-12, did you have any mentors?
Any mentors? I feel like it was my mom. She was always there for me, so supportive. Both my parents were very supportive. When I told them I was moving to Las Vegas for college, they both had to pick their jaw up off the floor. But they knew that if they tried to stop me, it would only create a very terrible monster. So instead they supported me and packed up all my stuff and drove me to Vegas on my 18th birthday. So yeah, definitely family was my biggest supporter.
Awesome. And we'll get more into that after this quick commercial break.
Did you know that 71% of students at Long Beach State receive financial aid? In 2016, Long Beach State awarded $12.3 million in scholarships. Not only that, Each year, more than 1,500 students are served by disabled student services, leaving no barriers
How
in
long
their
is the
path
break?
to an education.
It's like a few
At the
seconds,
beach,
see,
Okay.
little
no
commercial.
barriers. It's a philosophy that applies to everything we do.
Like with a promo, a PSA, and a commercial of a show.
1 in 5 students on CSU campuses experience food insecurity while in college, according to a study commissioned by CSU Chancellor
The
Tim
one after this one is the
Associated
commercial for
Student
my
Beach
show.
Pantry
I,
operates as an official
when I was
food
trying to
pantry
apply to
for
have a
Long
show
Beach State
here, I was
students.
thinking
The
like
pantry
what kind of
provides
commercial I wanted.
non-perishable
Yeah.
food
So it's
items
bits
for
and
students
pieces of
in need.
people
Also
that
housed
I've
in
interviewed
Beach
before.
Pantry
Oh, cool.
is the
Because
Student
I wanted to
Swap
give the
Shop program,
impression of like,
aimed at
in a
providing
nutshell,
students
what
with
my
an
show is about,
opportunity
and it's
to
like
swap
people of
unneeded
so
or
many
old
different
school
careers.
supplies.
So you'd hear
The
like a
Student Beach Pantry
comedian, a
exists on the generous
firefighter,
donations of
different
students,
stuff in it.
staff, community,
Awesome.
and corporate giving. To donate, visit asicssulb.org and search Beach Pantry.
Quiet on the set. Can we please have quiet on the set?
Hey, I'm Rob Flores, the host of the Golden Spotlight. Join me as I showcase a variety of guests.
I am what they refer to as an exoneree.
Hi, I'm Carla Perez, otherwise known as Rita Repulsa, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, a television series.
As people have told me before, like, you're really funny, you should try stand-up. And that's probably how every comedian starts.
Took an EMT course 6 months later, and the next thing I know, I was a firefighter.
Then I do all my own music videos, I edit my music videos, I write the concepts for the most part, I direct the filming of it, etc. So I have a blast with it.
Every week, someone steps into the spotlight, and it's always a new story. So join me every Monday at 2 p.m. on 22 West Radio. You never know what we have in store.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we are back here on 22 West Radio. Thank you for tuning in. 22 West Radio is located at Cal State Long Beach University. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, I have a really cool guest. Well, you know, it's a shame this show is only a, one, show time slot because, I like to get as much of their story as possible, and time just flies by during my show. So I like to, try my best to go in chronological order. But obviously, eventually, I want to talk about your reel, because that was so cool. I saw the reel on YouTube. Okay, so we're talking about what was next after high school. You mentioned, you loved acting and stuff. Were you, like, in plays and stuff also, like, in high school, or...?
I didn't do that in high school. I definitely did that in my early years, and I loved it. But I was so involved in dancing that I had to pick something, because I was going to dance classes usually 4 times a week after school. So it was pretty impossible to do anything else and maintain a good grade point average. So acting really started for me once I got into college and I started taking acting classes and doing some things in Vegas.
Cool. Also, we as students, we always have a subject that we either just totally disliked, we found it boring, or we struggled with it. What was that subject for you?
Oh my gosh, I hated math so much, and mostly because I'm such a creative personality that I hate memorizing things that people already know. I would rather make something up. So I loved writing. I loved English class because I could usually write poetry, or art class where I could sketch, and something that I could create and feel proud about. Not, well, this guy said that this atom plus this equals this, and it drove me nuts. I just hated it.
So, how did it start? So you're in college. Are you participating in like the extracurricular activities, the clubs and stuff?
My college was a specialty school, so it's the International Academy of Design and Technology, Las Vegas, meaning it's not a university, there's no football teams, there's no cheerleaders, there was no dorms. It's just you go to school and then you leave. So there weren't any extracurriculars. What I did when I first got to Vegas was I was actually a cheerleading coach for kids, and so between that and school, which was really, it was really difficult. They had a lot of assignments and a lot of things that we had to crank out very quickly, so I was extremely busy.
Cool. Which brings me to, a component in my show that I do is I have my guests, try to do like the chronological jobs too. Like, obviously school is expensive, books can be expensive. Did you have to work during school? Tell us about the jobs you had leading up to, after school.
Okay, so I started as the cheer coach. I mean, I worked retail when I was in high school. That was like my first real job. And then teaching cheerleading and gymnastics to kids. And then I quit that and got a job at Hard Rock Hotel as a lifeguard. And the next summer I was promoted to food runner, which is a highly coveted job. I know it sounds retarded. If you've ever seen the reality show Rehab, that's where I worked at the Hard Rock. And people would audition for this spot where you had to come and strip to a bikini and get your picture taken, and there's like 500 plus girls gunning for 4 spots. So I was lucky enough to get one of them. It paid really well, but it's a job in a bikini. It wasn't that fulfilling. So that's what I did in Vegas, and then I actually did a study abroad in London and didn't work when I was there. Just spent way too much money on clothes, of course. How can you not spend money on clothes when you're in London? And then when I got to California, which was 2 weeks after I moved back from my study abroad, I got a job at All Saints, which is a clothing line that I was obsessed with and discovered in London. And so I did retail and then did a waitressing job at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant and the rooftop pool at the London West Hollywood. And also heard that Hakkasan, not Las Vegas, there is a Hakkasan in Las Vegas. Hakkasan Beverly Hills was opening, and so I got a job there as a waitress. It's like a super fancy 5-star thing. It was the worst. The money was great, but it was so stressful and just unnecessary, and so I had a bad experience there. After that job ended horribly, I vowed that I would never be a waitress again, and that's what motivated me to really, really take the leap and go acting full-time, and then I started getting some styling gigs, and so I've been freelance ever since. That was about 4 years ago. That was a really long job history. Sorry about that.
It's cool. I like to get the origin stories because, it's the whole idea of, you have to start from somewhere.
Yes.
And the journey. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously they have us take 2 commercial breaks, and my guest is so interesting, so I'd like to knock them both out the way already, the commercials, so we can just continue.
Let's take a pop quiz. Which of the following are some efficient techniques of recycling? A. Taking the bottle cap off plastic bottles before recycling them, since only the actual bottle is recyclable. B. Crushing aluminum cans to fit as many cans into the recycling bin as possible and reduce the use of garbage bags.
Oh, how long are you supposed to do the interview
Using
for?
all of your electronic
to
waste
like
into a
55.
box, then disposing of them at your local Goodwill or any certified e-waste center. Or D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. For more information, email ASI Recycling at asi-recycling@csulv.edu.
Students, are you looking for some free and exciting entertainment and prizes? All Long Beach State athletic games are free for all current students with a valid ID, and you can win prizes for just showing up. Check out longbeachstate.com/students for all of the details. Go Beach!
Growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan. I'm
Is
still
this
a
the
kid
last
at
one?
heart right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, well, what you may not know is wrestlers are also, comedians, actors, and more. And I'll tell you all about it. Tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. to Beyond the Ropes on 22 West Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Ralph Flores, and you just heard the commercial to my other show, which is Thursday mornings, which explains, this bout, which my co-host Ethan and I, we do a show which is pretty much news, everything pro wrestling, and almost like a TMZ but for wrestling. But yeah, we'll get into a variety of subjects this upcoming week, including the latest news, and we'll look into the topic of death in the ring. All kinds of, things that have happened before, including the tragic loss of wrestling legend Owen Hart. So tune into that this Thursday at 10. Going back to my interview here with my guest. So you mentioned, you went from waitressing for a while and then leading up to, what happened afterwards now?
So after waitressing, you know what, I want to tell you this story because I think it's worth sharing the struggles of moving to California. So it was really difficult because I'm living on my friend's couch in Vegas. My stuff is all in storage. I just got back from London, and I knew I was going to move to California. Even before I moved to Vegas, I knew that California is where I would be. So I was searching for jobs, and I was searching for an apartment. I found All Saints, the clothing store, and I drove to Los Angeles and stayed on someone's couch, and I tried to get this job, and they're like, okay, we think you're great, but we can't hire you until you have a California address. So I started looking at apartments, and then all of these apartments are telling me, well, we can't give you an apartment until you have a job. So I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do then? How is this going to work? So I found on Craigslist, I kid you not, a live-in dog walker position. So I could live in Venice, in this house, in my own room, my own bathroom, and I could live there for free if I took care of these 4 dogs. And it was the most random situation. I got it like an actual audition. There was a casting for this, and I swear it felt like American Idol. There was all these models like walking in and out. They had interview questions like, how many number 2 pencils will fit on a 747 Boeing airplane? And I was like, what? So random. This is California for you. No, this is Los Angeles for you. So somehow I got it, and it ended up being a really crazy situation. This guy's ex-wife came back, like, screaming, trying to kill me. She thought I was trying to sleep with him. I'm like, I'm just trying to get free rent. Like, I don't want anything to do with him. And he ended up kicking me out after 3 weeks, gave me a week to find a place. And at that point, I didn't know where to live because I was new to the area. So I ended up getting this super sketchy apartment in this really bad neighborhood, infested with spiders. But I was able to do it because I told him, okay, you're kicking me out, you're going to pay for my moving truck, you're going to pay for my security deposit, and you're going to tell my landlord that I work for you and make $1,300 a month. And so that is how I made the move from Vegas to California. And yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Just insight on people trying to make it happen.
And what happened after?
Well, it was fine after that because I was able to figure out ways to get approved for better apartments. Like 8 months later, I moved to West Hollywood. I got a roommate, and then I've pretty much moved annually since I've been here, and I've been here for 8 years. So I've lived in almost every city in the Los Angeles area.
And what was it like adjusting?
The biggest adjustment, of course, traffic. Just being able to plan for that, but I'm really good with time management, so it wasn't that bad. I mean, Los Angeles is great. People will complain about it all the time, but at the end of the day, it's beautiful, it's warm, it's sunny, palm trees, it's great. There's so much opportunity here that it far outweighs the negatives.
So in acting, we hear that there's, all this technical stuff, and, like unions and stuff. Tell us about that.
So it's really difficult to get into the union, but you also don't want to join too soon because once you join the union, you're unable to do non-union work, and a lot of commercials are going non-union, which is bad. I mean, for me, I'm non-union, so it's okay for me, but for union actors, they're losing a lot of work, and it's tricky because you want to be in the union because you can make thousands more. But there's a lot less work. And I was recently told by one of my acting coaches, who I just finished class from, that it's harder to be an actor and book jobs than it is to get into the Olympics. Like, the amount of people that are gunning for the job that you want is more competitive than the Olympics. So, when you're going up against other union actors, there's harder competition, but it's bigger payoff. So it's really hard to kind of decide and figure out when to get into the union. I'm holding off right now. I'm waiting to get a few bigger roles and things that I can really stand on in order to be considered one of the better union actors.
That's so cool though, because obviously, are there any misconceptions and stuff that people who are not in acting
Yes.
people figure that if you're in a union, that's the only way to get on TV or movies, or how?
No.
Because you have been on TV. How does that work?
So the funny thing is, everyone wants an agent, right? That's the first thing. They're like, I need an agent, which is totally valid. But every single thing, maybe minus one, that's on my resume, I got on my own. So you have to be proactive. Even if you get an agent, which I've had, I got an agent within a year or two of moving here, and I've had multiple since then. Even though you have an agent, that doesn't mean you're going to work. Even though you're in the union, that doesn't mean you're going to work. You have to be so proactive and self-submit all the time, make connections, get to know casting directors on a friendly basis so that when they see the role, you pop into their head and they call you in, versus them seeing a tiny little 1-inch by 1.5-inch thumbnail on their computer with 1,500, if not 3,000 other people going for that same role. So it's all about networking and really being proactive versus just waiting for things to happen for you.
So how does this is so cool because you're in different realms of the entertainment industry, because you also have the fashion side going on. How did you balance the both?
So it's really great because what I do mostly is style commercials. So tomorrow I have a commercial that I'm styling, a Veterans PSA, and so I shopped for it a couple days ago, and usually there's a fitting. So I really only have to book out, and that's the term we use, book out, where you have to tell your agents, hey, I'm unavailable, don't send me on any auditions. I really only have to book out for 2 days, because while I'm shopping, I can run to an audition and then continue shopping. No one's telling me to clock in or out. It's on my own time. During the fitting, I have to be there most of the day, and then the shoot day, I have to be there most of the day, and then the wrap day, I could go to an audition if I want. So it's great because it's great income for me, it's fun for me to shop, and I only have to book out a couple of days, so it doesn't interfere like a normal job would.
Wow. And I think, now I was briefly looking through, your extensive resume, but I'm not sure. Maybe I was mistaken. Did you also do something for dogs too, of fashion?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. So that job did take me out of the game for a solid 2 years because it was 60 hours a week. But it was kind of like a dream job because it was a Nickelodeon show. Nick Jr. is called Mutton Stuff, and I don't know if you know Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. But it's his son who was the host of the show, and it's all scripted. It's not reality. It's a preschool show. Calvin is the host, and he owns his own preschool, and the students are dogs. So it was really silly. They always wanted it to look more like little people versus animals, so I would have to make costumes for them. So when they went to the moon, I made astronaut costumes, helmets and everything. They would go to the beach, and I put little swimsuits on them, and I even made a mermaid costume, Cleopatra, Frankenstein, crazy funny stuff. So that was a really fun job for me because I was able to use my creativity and actually sketch, design, pattern, sew, the whole thing, pretty much what I learned in school. So my parents were like, thank you, you used your degree. It paid off. And I was the only one in the department. So I would break down the scripts, figure out the costumes, purchase, alter, I would do everything. It was a lot of work, 60 hours a week was a little crazy, but it was definitely fun. I don't regret it.
So for fashion, does it kind of work like a tattoo artist where you kind of got a binder of all your stuff?
Like a portfolio?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. I've only had to pull it out a couple times. Like in school, we created this whole portfolio with boards and fabric swatches and sketches and pictures, and it was an actual class called portfolio. And you want to know how many times I pulled that thing out? Like once. And it's funny. I mean, it was a great experience, but now people just want to see like real life stuff, you know? Like, I'm not in fashion. I'm in costuming, which is a huge difference. You know, people are like, oh, fashion, you style photo shoots. No, I style characters. I style for TV and commercial. There's a story there. It's not what's on trend. It's very, very different. So now I've used my animal costuming book to show a couple people, and I've done other animal costumes since then. It's funny, I was doing wardrobe for an Xfinity commercial, and they wanted the dog to match the actor. And so the producer was like, I know who to call. She can do wardrobe for humans and animals. And so I made a matching little costume, and it was fun. So I'm kind of known now in that niche of animal costumer because not many people do it, and it is very specific and very, very different than humans. I learned the hard way.
So, like, how does it work, like, being able to get, like, from costumes to, like, has there ever been a situation where, like, you're like, doing costumes and, like, it's for a show and somebody's like, hey, you got time to, like, be on the camera, too?
I have done that before. I went to Chile for Procter & Gamble. It was a photo shoot that I was styling, and the producer was like, we're going to have you be the pharmacist. I was like, okay. So I've definitely hopped in a few times, but mostly it's very separate. It's great to make relationships with the directors and producers and everything, but when I'm on set as a stylist, they see me as a stylist. They don't really see me as a serious actor, because most people in wardrobe don't do both. They're usually like, I don't want to be in front of the camera, get it away from me. Whereas I'm very both sides of the camera. So when I'm styling, I'm the stylist. I want people to respect me as a stylist. When I'm acting, obviously I want to be respected as an actor. They do cross over more in the acting sense because I'll book something and they'll ask me to bring my own options for clothes, and so I usually just go buy, like, I treat it like a job and I go shopping for it and bring them all these things, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, thank you. And I'm like, well, I'm a stylist. So they get lucky in that sense. When I'm the actor and I style myself, they really love it.
So how different are you compared to, like, your siblings? Did they go different paths?
Well, my two brothers were in sports. They definitely could have been major league if they would have kept going, because they were amazing at baseball and even basketball. But they kind of split off and did their own thing. I'm the free, wild spirit of the family, moving to all these different places and just kind of going for it.
They entered, like, different fields?
Yeah, so they've both done a few different things. They actually are both licensed private investigators. Ooh. And they also served papers, the stories they have of, like, people answering the door and the different techniques to be like, are you this person? Or, you know, they'd show up and be like, hey, are you Rob? And they'd be like, yeah, here's your papers. Because, you know, people try and get out of it and pretend like they're not that person so they can't get served.
Cool. So you've had the opportunity to be in, like, the top 3, like, realms that people would like in acting: commercial, TV, and, like, movie. What are the differences?
The differences as far as acting or styling?
Well, both.
Both. Okay, we'll start with styling. So for TV, it's very fast-paced. We would get the script maybe a week before, and we'd have a meeting, look it over, break it down, figure out what we need to do. Meanwhile, we're filming the script that we prepped the week before, and then also prepping the script for the next week. So it's like everything happening at once. You're thinking about 3 episodes, or even 6, because most of the time we would shoot 2 episodes at a time. So you're thinking about 6 episodes at a time, and that's definitely crazy, and it's really fast, and you have to keep in mind continuity as far as if they wore something in one scene, are they wearing it the next week in school, really specific. For commercials, it's very one and done. There's no real continuity. The longest commercial I ever shot was, as far as the same characters, is like 3 days. So you really don't have to think about that. It's really quick spots. You know, they see the scene that you prepped for like a maximum 3 seconds before they move to the next one. And then feature films are even different, obviously. They could wear the same outfit the entire movie, so you have to prep how many of the same shirt that you need. Are they getting dirty? Do they need to rip the sleeves off? And that's definitely more of something that you have to think about. For acting, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Commercials are fun and spontaneous, and now they're going more theatrical with it, meaning they don't want like, hi, I'm Shelise and I'm selling you this. They want it to be a story because they're trying to make you feel. They're trying to evoke emotion out of you. So it's shot more like a movie, you know, something that pulls at your heartstrings to get you to buy a Chevy, you know. So it's becoming more theatrical, but it's still short, quick, quirky, and TV acting. I've done a couple shows. Most of them have been reality, so it's hard for me to really say as far as acting goes, but reality is definitely fun, and it's a whole nother beast.
And movie?
And, movies. I've done mostly just shorts. I'm in the running right now for a feature film to be shot in Alaska. So fingers crossed, I should know about that soon. And I've been booked as the lead in 2 separate features, and then neither of them got shot because they lost funding. So I know, it's a huge bummer. I was like, oh my gosh, I booked a movie, it films in Georgia, and then, oh, I booked this movie, we're filming in the desert, and then it didn't happen. That's the hard part about acting, is you can't get too attached to things.
Wow. Tell us about like your family's reaction when you made it, when you got like your first like commercial
like
or
the
TV
biggest
show
stuff.
and stuff. Yeah.
They're all super happy and proud of me. They have been with me every step of the way. I call them up, like after every audition I call my mom. I'm on the phone with my mom like 5 times a day. Like, Mom, guess what? This audition went great. Okay, I'll call you when I get out of the next one. Mom, this audition went great. I'm definitely going to get a call back. You know, it's like every little thing is a win. You have to see everything as a win, because 90% of the time you're rejected. And you can't, even rejection is a bad word. If you don't get cast, it's not that they're rejecting you, it's that they liked someone else for some other reason, right? Because everyone's individual. And so I never feel like I'm in competition with somebody else because they're them and I'm me. And if they cast the other person, it's because they liked them. It's not because they didn't like me. You know what I mean? So every little thing is a win, and I call and tell them all the time.
Cool. Also, for those of you who are just tuning in, obviously, I have multiple streams of video here. I got the cameras, I got the you now, and I just started the live me. Thank you to 1,000 likes so far, and a bunch of heart icons coming flying. So tell us about, like the famous people that you've met and stuff. Any great advice they've given you?
Oh, famous people that I've met. I just worked with Jack Black, and that was super fun. He's hilarious. Oh my gosh. I was just cracking up the whole time. He has a new movie coming out, and I was working with Zach King. I don't know if you know him. He's a huge influencer, like 20+ million followers on Instagram. He does like magic pretty much. It's really cool. So I've worked with him a few times as an actor. And it's funny because I was hired to do an Uber Eats commercial, and they hired Zach. And so I was styling him, and he's like, wait, I act with you. Like, what are you doing here? And so then I styled him in that, and then they were like, oh, we're doing this thing with Jack Black tomorrow. Do you want to style that and possibly be in it? So it's like all these worlds collide. Back to what you were saying. Jack Black was really awesome. He wasn't necessarily giving advice. I mean, he was singing all the time and just being funny. I think the most advice you can get is by watching and learning from example. So just seeing how he how he interacted with people and how he went about doing the scenes. It was really cool. And I also got to work with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard on another Zach King shoot. I was her stand-in, and so I got to do the run-through as her and then stand in for her when we were shooting. And they're both really great. It's so funny, I think. To watch them improv is the best, and it made me realize I need to get into some improv classes because people love that. And when an actor can say a line and it's totally off the cuff and people love it, sometimes it's better than what's scripted, and so it's really valuable to be able to do that. So that's what I'm taking away from working with them.
Cool. Let's see. Obviously, time goes by so fast, and I'm trying to fit as much as possible because this is such
I'll make my answer shorter.
No. This is still cool though. But okay. So many questions that I have in mind. Tell us about your reel. Tell us about
My reel?
Yeah.
Okay, so I dated a trailer editor. So when he broke up with me, I demanded. I was like, "You owe me a reel." That was really funny. We're still friends. So that's why it looks like a movie trailer for Shelise. So the stuff that's on it, man, I need to update it, to be honest, but there's a lot of reality TV. I did Millionaire Matchmaker, and I got picked. Yay! So I went on the date with him. I was on a reality show shot in Fiji called 72 Hours. It's like Survivor meets Amazing Race, so you'll see that on there. I was on another reality show called Reincarnated Past Lives, where they legitimately, and I'm not lying, this was not fake reality. I was taken back through hypnosis and saw my past lives, 2 of them. And they actually researched everything that I was saying and found documented proof of the people and the places that I was talking about. And I even spoke ancient Arabic in one of them. It was nuts. So that's like the most real reality that I've done. And then, what else is on my reel? There's like a Costco Christmas tree commercial. I got sacrificed, virgin sacrifice on a music video. That was a lot of fun. I like doing the horror stuff because it really challenges you more than just being like cute and flirty, you know.
I saw that was even the pickle commercial where the guy's like having a seizure or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really funny Vlasic Pickles spec commercial. So the idea is I come out in a peanut butter bikini to my boyfriend. I'm like, hungry? And he's like, yes, but then he realizes how deathly allergic he is to peanut butter and how he's choking as a child. Flashback to like, oh no. So the whole joke of that is, like, don't be in a pickle, you know, Vlasic Pickles.
So, like, my advisor is always giving me tips of, like, stuff. Like I mentioned before when we were going on air about how, like, I get clips here and there on my phone and make, like, one Instagram post where it's going to be, like, bits and pieces.
Uh-huh.
But then I switched to, like, a video live stream. But, wait, what was I going to say?
I don't know. What were you going to say?
Like freaking Dory from...
Hi, I'm Dory.
It'll get back to me eventually. But, oh yeah, so I was like, I like to kind of give a teaser even when I do like a post where I'll be like, my next guest has done this, this, and this, but without revealing the name yet.
Right.
So I'm like, my next guest is like super competitive. When she enters a competition, she wins. When she goes to like pageants, she wins and stuff like that. And like, it was a super cool. Tell us about even like your days of like when you like competed in these like competitions and stuff and you came out on top.
In the pageant?
Yeah.
That was very short-lived. It was like 1 year of pageants. I entered to do the Miss California USA pageant, and they highly recommended we do other pageants so we have experience. So I entered this Miss California American Co-ed pageant, and it was really silly. It wasn't a huge deal. I feel like maybe I should own it more because like I'd be like, I won Miss California, but it was such a silly little ma and pa pageant that I feel like It's not super worth mentioning. I did go to Florida for the national competition or whatever, but it was very cookie cutter. Like, these girls had been doing this same pageant since they were like 5. So it was like hyper reality. You know, like there was a modeling competition and I model, right? So I know how to walk a runway and I did it exactly how I would because I've done it before. But the type that they were doing was very specific to their pageant that wasn't necessarily accurate, I guess you could say. It was fun and cool, but the people who won were the ones that were coached to do it a certain way. Does that make sense? So it wasn't like a big dream come true. It was just like, oh, there was that. Moving on, you know.
Well, you did get to go to those ones?
I
did your
did.
parents get to like go to those? Or?
Yeah, my mom went with me to Florida, and that was a lot of fun. And then when I did the big one, which is obviously Miss California USA, it's a huge pageant where there's like 300 girls. My parents came out, and my 2 best friends actually came out from Utah to support me in that. So it was fun, but I can't say I'm like a pageant girl. You know, that's not really me.
And then the you mentioned how, you know, you've been in like competition shows too, where you've won and stuff like that. What was that like?
Well, I did the first show that I did when I moved to Los Angeles was Who Wants to Date a Comedian? And it was on Comedy Central, and it was probably aired at like 1 a.m. And it was really silly, typical dating reality show. And we had rounds, right? Like, there was a talent portion, and I did a little cheer, and then there was, what else? Oh, a food tasting where we were blindfolded, and he fed us sweets, and we had to say what they were, and he ended up licking my face, and it was really weird. But I won that one, and the funny thing is, just if anyone's curious as to what reality shows pay, I won that one, so I got $500 for the day, and I was stoked. I was like, $500, that's amazing, right? And then when I did Millionaire Matchmaker, there was, oh, by the way, I think I went to like one audition for that, Who Wants to Date a Comedian thing. Millionaire Matchmaker, behind the scenes. I went to an audition, and then I went to, so I got a callback for that, and then the callback was the audition with Patty, and then, and that was scary and crazy. And then, after that, I went to the mixer, so that's 3 days already. And then if you got chosen to go on the date, you would go on the date, which was a 4th day. And so all of those girls did day 1 through 3. Only I got to do day 4. And because I did day 4, I was paid $200. $200 for 4 days of work. It's nuts. And it's funny because reality can get away with it because everyone wants to be on TV. So they don't have to pay people to be on reality TV shows. So that's a little behind the scenes on reality.
So, you have an extensive resume, and you tell us about, you know, how you got to, I'm trying to get to the next video source here.
That's okay.
Tell us about how you got to, like, you know, Universal Pictures, too.
Oh, so I did 2 short films for Universal Studios. Really cool. They've recently teamed up with Crypt TV. And Crypt TV only does horror stuff that you will have nightmares about for the rest of your life. So when they were filming Get Out, they wanted it to be viral. And so they filmed 2 short films with a parallel storyline and then released it on Crypt TV and internet, all these different places to get it to go viral so that when the movie came out, it exploded, which it obviously did. They did a great job of it. So I was actually playing the girlfriend, the one that brings home the guy and then he gets sliced or whatever. So that was the first one. And then they called me in for the second one, promoting Happy Death Day. And that one was so cool because I was playing the lead, the sorority girl that gets killed over and over and over again. So, and it was actually shot in 360. So there were no cameramen. It was literally me holding the phone filming the entire thing because it was shot 360 and it was filmed as if I was doing a live video for fans, like, hey, it's my birthday, thanks for tuning in, and then things would happen to where I would get killed. So it was definitely the most challenging shoot I've ever done because I've never had to worry about camera, first of all, and second of all, it was one long thing, one long cut, so I couldn't mess up in the middle or we'd have to start all over again. I'm grateful to say that I never missed a line, so we made it all the way through every time, and we probably did like 10 takes of each segment, and there were 3, and so I got killed like 30 plus times, strangled, I got smacked in the face, actually got a fat lip during one of the takes. I was, what else? Oh, stabbed, and then my neck was broken and I got thrown into the pool. So it was a crazy video. If you haven't seen it, you should. Just because as the viewer, it's really fun to scroll through and you decide what you want to watch. If you want to watch me talking or if you want to see the people around me, and you have to try and figure out who the killer is because it's like an Easter egg hunt. You have to watch everyone at the party and see when they're leaving the room and when they're coming and try and figure out who at the party is the killer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are down to our last few minutes, but like 3 minutes. But
We have an audience over there.
Oh, hello everyone! Hello.
We have an audience looking through the glass, smiling and waving.
So, man, it's so cool. You've been on so many things, and Happy Death Day. Obviously it's so recent and stuff, and I always ask my guests, what would you like your legacy to be, and where do you see yourself after retirement?
That's a really great question. How many minutes do I have?
Like 3.
3 minutes. Okay, so my goal for the longest time has been to reach a level of success and I don't want to say fame because that sounds really vain, but to where I could go into a charity event and help raise money for something, a great cause, just by showing up, something to where I could really make a difference and help that way. I don't need to be Angelina Jolie, it'd be great, but I don't need to be her. I just need to hit a level of success to where I could really make a difference and speak for causes and really try to make an impact that way. And what was the second question? In retirement.
Yeah.
I don't want to retire. I want to act forever. You can act until you're dead because they always need every type of person. They need grandmas too, right? So it'd be great to just be an actor indefinitely. I mean, maybe I'll take vacations around the world every now and then, but I like to work. I like to stay busy.
Cool. What tips do you have for people that want to pursue the same thing you're doing?
Okay, now I probably have like a minute left, so this is the short version. Number 1, figure out your brand. If you are the quirky girl next door, be that, okay? Really, really specific. Number 2, get great headshots that reflect that because that's very important. That is your ticket into the door, into the audition. And then number 3, get on every acting website, LA Casting, Actors Access, Casting Frontier, Cast, Backstage, you name it. Get on it, get a profile, and submit yourself. And then look for an agent. That's step number 4. And keep going. Persistence is step number 5.
Cool.
60 seconds or less. The short version.
What about the promotional stuff that goes behind the scenes? Like after you finish a movie, like, let's say like after Happy Death Day came out, the promotion that goes, the PR after you make a movie.
I honestly haven't really had to do that. So that's something that I can't really speak on. I haven't had to do that yet. There's been things that were scheduled but just never happened. So the most PR that I did was for 72 Hours, where I was interviewed on radio shows and things and newspapers and everything to talk about that experience, which was cool. But that was pretty much the only thing I've had to do so far.
Cool. How can people find you online, social media, or all that stuff? So
you can find me on Instagram. That's my main jam. It's at Shelise Ann, SHELISEANN is my handle. And then, yeah, you can go to Shelise.com if you want to see more, but mostly it's all on Instagram.
Cool. ladies and gentlemen, the show, I wish it was longer because we could have still, talked more about, her amazing career.
Crazy stories.
But yeah, you guys have to Google her name. Spell your name again.
Okay. So if it's easier to remember, it's Shelly and Lisa put together. It's my mom and her sister. So it's Shelise, Shelise. My last name is even crazier. It's German. It's Hufstetler, spelled Hufstetler. Shelise Hufstetler.
Thank you so very much for taking the time
Thank
to be here.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this episode of The Golden Spotlight.